There's an ongoing debate in the sourdough community on whether people are making sourdough too complicated or oversimplifying it. I'd argue that sourdough just sounds more complicated than it actually is, and once you learn the foundation and the science, it quite literally demystifies the whole thing. When I first heard terms like stretching folds and bulk fermentation, it left my head spinning, so today I'm starting a series for sourdough beginners called Sourdough Simplified, where I break down these complex terms, processes, and methods to make them easier to digest. It all starts with the starter, baby. So what is a sourdough starter? A sourdough starter is a naturally fermented mixture of flour and water, or a culture of microorganisms that are alive and perform their own biological activity. A sourdough starter is a leavening agent that uses naturally occurring yeast and bacteria to make baked goods rise, aka wild yeast. How do you keep a sourdough starter alive? Like any living organism, you have to feed your starter to keep it alive. A feed is simply a ratio of mother starter to fresh flour to fresh water. It grows when you feed it flour and water because the flour contains natural sugars that are readily consumed by the yeast and bacteria living in the starter, allowing them to multiply and produce carbon dioxide gas, causing the starter to rise and expand in volume. Essentially, the flour provides the food source for the microbes to thrive and reproduce. After feeding your starter, it will rise until it has reached peak, which means it will have consumed all of the food it can consume, and then some of the bacteria start dying and others go dormant. This is why you see your starter rise as it's feeding and fall when it's dying. You will need to feed your starter every 12 to 24 hours at room temperature. Colder temperatures will slow down a starter's growth curve, and if you stick it in the fridge sealed, it will go dormant and can be revived with a few fresh feedings. The warmer the environment, the happier your starter is, and the more food you give it, the longer it takes to finish its feed. The more you feed it, the happier it is. What is discard? Any portion of sourdough starter that is not used to make bread or to sustain your mother starter is considered discard. You will not typically need all of your starter for a feeding, so a portion gets discarded. You could put this in a separate jar in the fridge and bake discard recipes with it, or you can throw it in the trash. Let me know what other sourdough starter questions you have in the comments. I'm currently building out a sourdough starter maintenance guide that is going to be more in-depth and scientific. Follow me for more sourdough tips, tricks, and recipes.